Alright, so pleasure to meet you all. My name is Alex, and along with my team, Charlotte, Morgan, and Dick, are here to present to you today our comprehensive strategy for Dropbox. So, Drew Huston, right? What Dropbox means to him is to be able to sit at any device and have access to all of your stuff. It's a seamless experience that he wants to provide to the rest of the world. And it's this central prerogative that we have kept in mind and moving forward with the 3 core strategies that we're proposing here today. But before we get into those, we need to kind of analyze what they're doing and identify their current pain points. So Dropbox, they're really focusing their value proposition on storage. But as the data shows, even the premium users aren't really using that much storage. So that's really contributing to the low conversion rates that we're seeing. Secondly, when we look at the freemium model, although in the beginning, it made a lot of sense in order to drive that initial bulk of traffic, Dropbox isn't like other social media networks like Tinder, like Slack, like Spotify. As we increase the size of the ecosystem, it doesn't actually, those free users don't add anything back. So because of that, the free users add no value to the broader Dropbox network, yet are costing us a significant amount. Thirdly, we've seen that Dropbox has always struggled to really break and make a large impact in that small to medium-sized enterprise market because of their one-size-fits-all approach. So our 3 core strategies in order to target these pain points is we're going to go in-depth into 4 additional features that we feel will really drive user conversion. Secondly, we are proposing to limit the freemium model to 1 year so we can have the users experience the Dropbox experience before we start turning them into revenue-contributing consumers. Finally, in order to make a big splash in the SME market, we are introducing Burst technology, which is a cloud computing service that has many significant complements to our core competencies that we have today. With these 3 strategies, we forecast that we will be able to boost conversion rates up to 5% with 200,000 paid users, driving a top-line revenue of $37 million. Next, I pass it to Charlotte.
So at Dropbox, we're hoping to add another number of features that we think will really facilitate the transition into paying customers. So first of all, we're going to have a draft save feature. Now, this feature will allow users, with the press of a button, to access all of their old drafts and to see who made the changes. Now, it will also, to see who made all the changes. It'll also highlight all of the drafts, and it'll highlight all of the changes from one draft to the next, so that you can really see the evolution of the document. Now, this feature is particularly great for us at Dropbox because it doesn't actually require any additional server space or storage space. All of the drafts are already saved, but this feature will just facilitate ease of use. Now, next we hope to introduce a time capsule. The time capsule is a last resort feature. So if something were to happen to the computer, if there was a virus or if the computer were crashed, it would bring it back 24 hours, so you can access all of your documents. Now, this means that all of your documents will be saved in the cloud. So if you wanted to go from one computer to the next, you'll also be able to access all of the documents on your hard drive. Because of the storage requirements for this feature, it will only be accessible to those who subscribe to the unlimited storage space. Now, next at Dropbox, we really hope to improve our customer service experience. And we plan on doing that through a number of different facets. First of all, we want to make a more robust question and answer page, as well as a troubleshooting page. We also want to have YouTube videos with tutorials, and we want to have YouTube videos with tutorials, and we want to have a 24-hour a day, 7 days a week phone call hotline. Now, lastly, we want to double our storage space for all of our users. Now, this is an act of goodwill on our part, given that, as Morgan will talk about, we're going to get rid of our freemium model. Now, this will come at a very low cost for us because typically users don't actually use all of their storage space in the first place. So our new features will help our users. It'll increase their experience as well as come at a pretty low cost for us.
Moving on to the second part of our action plan, we're looking at revising the freemium model. So in order to really justify why we decided to do this, I think it's really useful to look at some case studies of businesses where the freemium model has been incredibly successful. And so to do so, we decided to analyze Spotify and Slack, which both have some of the highest conversion rates of free users into paying users in the industry. And we found that when we examined these businesses, we saw that they exhibited 3 similar characteristics. The first was that these businesses offered services that were personalized, customizable, and very interactive, which built up switching costs for customers and prevented them from switching to other competitors' services. The second characteristic which we noticed was that these businesses were able to build a really powerful social network when they were able to add to their user base, and the interaction between users built up the value of that business. The third characteristic that we saw was that these businesses were easily scalable. So they experienced low acquisition costs per customer, as well as additional costs of these users using their services, which allowed them to support this large free user base relative to paying users. And when we examine Dropbox, we see that these sort of 3 characteristics don't really fit with our current business model. It doesn't make sense that we have 98% of our customers who are not paying, but are not giving us any top-line revenue, but also contributing to 57% of our yearly storage costs. So in order to combat this, we came up with a solution. We're going to limit the freemium model to a 1-year trial period, and at the end of this trial period, customers will have the option to decide to convert to the premium service. They'll be given all the functionalities of the premium service in that 1-year trial, and we think this is incredibly effective because it will help them to build familiarity with the platform, build some trust in the brand name Dropbox, as well as raise the barriers to switching to a competitor service because all of their storage data, etc., will be on this platform. By doing so, what this really allows our business to do in the long run is focus on servicing the premium members with innovative products and strong customer service that will keep our retention rates high and keep us competitive compared to any other competitors in the storage space. When we looked at some of our revenue projections going forward and assuming a 5% conversion rate of our existing user base of 4 million users, we found that this delivers a lot of value to both our top line and bottom line, with over 195% in revenue growth and a 34.2% expansion in our gross margin per customer.
Awesome. And for Dropbox to really start to be of a lot of value for small to medium-sized enterprises, we want to introduce this burst technology, which is a cloud computing technology. And that's for 2 main reasons. That's so that these organizations can have infrastructure savings as well as disaster recovery. So throughout the course of a year, a company's computing resources, their need will vary, and it'll fluctuate throughout the year, and they will have a point where their resources will peak. But why should that customer have an IT infrastructure that's necessary to deal with that peak need when most of the year is at that smaller need? So they can save a lot by outsourcing that computing process to our cloud, our burst technology, where they will only pay during that time for the computing resources that they need. And in addition, what happens when their in-house infrastructure fails? What will they do then if it's a mission-critical process? Our hybrid cloud technology, our burst technology, will be able to detect when their infrastructure goes down and send that computing processes up, so that what it will do is decrease the downtime of their infrastructure and increase the availability. And we feel as though this perfectly fits in with Dropbox's core competencies already. We're already saving their files up in the cloud. And now we're going to send up some of their computing resources up into the cloud as well. So we'll not only be backing up their files, but we'll be backing up their entire IT infrastructure. And when we performed a break-even analysis on this, we realized that we only require 4,000 businesses to break even, which we think is manageable over a number of years. And now moving forward as a long-term strategy is we can even bring this technology to peer-to-peer users. So those are our individual users. And what we can do is, as we build our network to really create value in the size of our network, we can distribute these computational resources amongst the network. So now we can outsource these computer processes to other members of the network and their computers while they're online. So that's a huge increase in computing power while receiving no performance downgrades on the customer end. And it creates immense value for us because there's value generated as our Dropbox network grows, and at the same time, we offer a service that requires little infrastructure costs. And so here is our strategy and our timeline of implementation. And so here we implement what we've spoken about in the presentation and how we plan to do it. And that wraps us up within time, and thank you very much.
Yeah, very good job.
Just a question. So with getting rid of the freemium model, how did you take that into account in your projections in terms of that it would probably decrease user growth? Because there's probably a chunk of people who then wouldn't use it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically if we just look at some of our income statement, what we decided to do is we just assumed that the user base would stay, let's say, 4 million, right? And then we took the 10% of the users who are not paying, or 5%, and assumed that they were converted into paying users, and then just looked at that revenue, because the whole base of non-paying customers aren't contributing all to the top line, so it doesn't really affect it at all.
Did you consider the, I guess, the benefit or goodwill for the brand? Because now you'll have people who will no longer use it. And I guess one thing that kind of stuck out to me, so some of the key takeaways you have, like, so you said the frequent use builds up switching costs and the large user base builds a powerful social network. And so I thought that by taking away the freemium aspect, it's a bit of a misalignment there. You see what I'm saying?
So I guess like what we're trying to say is that provides a lot of value for different applications. Like, let's think about Tinder. The more people on the network, the more valuable it is.
Right.
But for Dropbox, where people can, even people without Dropbox can already see the links. Like if you have Dropbox as an additional free user, how does that person add value to the overall network? You don't really.
So in your action plan, I see negotiations with Windows. Can you flesh out what that actually entails?
Sure, I can speak to that. So the idea, we were also hoping to partner with Windows and to get Dropbox on all of the PCs. And that way, when we give the year-long subscription period, that'll be a year free. And because people have already grown dependent on it, because all of their files have already been backed up, it will incentivize people to pay into it full time.
Part of your strategy to increase the conversion rate was to double the storage available to the users. Just want you to talk about the reasoning behind that, seeing as majority of the existing storage is not being used.
It's an optics thing, really. So like you feel like you're getting the additional bang for your buck. That's kind of like Dropbox's model now, and we're kind of just doubling down, right? Like you pay, $10 for like 25, 50 gigs, but people aren't really using that much. So if for the same price we give them 100 gigs of allotted space, they're still not going to use it, but a part of optics, they feel like they're getting more value for the dollar.
And just to add in there are some case facts really that illustrate the price of IT infrastructure really going down. So the price to actually own a gigabyte of space in the cloud is decreasing at an exponential rate. So we're really not losing any ground in our margins. We feel like we can perfectly justify that and offer more value for probably not even incremental costs of the way that the prices in IT infrastructure have been decreasing.
I have a question about the implementation. So you're making the switch from the premium to the 1 year free. How are you going to deal with the existing 4 million users or whatever percentage it is that is on the free network? Are you going to grandfather them in, and how are you going to deal with that?
Okay, yeah, I can take that. So essentially what we would be doing in that case is that we would probably offer some of them like the 1 year free trial, and then at the end of that year offer them the option to convert. And if not, then we probably, if they choose not to convert, they would just have a sort of downgraded account with maybe less functionalities and maybe some advertising.
And I kind of have a question on a similar note. So now let's say
Unfortunately, we're out of time there, Corey.
Yeah.
Sorry guys.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys. Good job.